Hey readers, it's Lori. Welcome back to my channel, Books, Ink, and Paper, and welcome to my first of what might be more than one in a series. I don't know. Maybe it's an ongoing series for the rest of the year, but today I wanted to come to you and talk to you about some summer reading that I would like to do, and maybe talk about some summer books that I have already read that I really enjoyed. I'm sure there are tons more than the ones that I picked today, but I have a few that I actually found physically out of boxes. And so they've been kind of calling to me to either talk to you about or to read myself. So let's get started. All right, there is one I am currently reading, which is an ARC that was sent to me on NetGalley, and that's called The Block Party by Jamie Day. If I complete this in the next few weeks, that will mean that I actually have completed and reviewed a NetGalley pick for me before it actually is released. So this comes out in the middle of July, it appears, is still the time frame. And it follows a family and a bunch of neighbors who live on Alton Road in a Meadowbrook, I think it's called Meadowbrook Estates. And they typically have a yearly summer like barbecue party, and it's kind of a big deal in the neighborhood. And in this particular party, this in the present time, someone is murdered at the end of the night. And I've started it on my Kindle, so I can say that it does flash back at least to one other party, but it follows characters. Let me see. I think, is her name Alex? I think her name is Alex. Anyway, I don't want to know a whole lot about this, but I do know that it's a thriller. I do also already know that it has a combination of narrative as well as some text messages from a community of neighbors in the subdivision, which kind of amuses me because we have one of those now too, because we live in a subdivision. We have a community and people talk about different things that are happening or not happening. As a matter of fact, the other night we got a message that someone was stabbed in the front of their yard up the street from us. But then another neighbor came in and said that he had no evidence. He had checked with the sheriff's department and he had, done some investigating. And I think he works for the sheriff's department or the police department because we have a few cops that live in the neighborhood. Anyway, he said, I believe this is a scam unless someone can really give me evidence to the contrary. So it's kind of like we could be in our own little dramatic triangle here in my neighborhood, which kind of fascinates me and disturbs me at the same time. So anyway, I do think I will finish the block party fairly soon. So I'll keep you posted on that. But that is definitely one of my summer reads for the next couple of months. Another one I've read is The Book of Beloved by Carolyn Haynes. Carolyn Haynes is a local author to me. She's from Mobile, Alabama, or maybe I think she's from there originally, but she definitely lives there now. And she's maybe better known for her cozy mysteries. She has several of them in a variety of series. One of them is the Sarah Booth Delaney Bones mystery series, which we do enjoy, and we have a number of those on our shelves as well. But this one is historical fiction. It's very different than her others. It's really gothic in nature, and I really enjoyed this. I read it several years ago, and it is a part of a current trilogy, and I have the other two books. I just haven't gotten to them yet. I take that back. There might actually be four. Nevertheless, this one introduces you to Raisa James, whose husband passed away during World War One. So this is set in that time frame. And she goes to live with her uncle at an estate in Alabama, in Mobile. And she's really excited because she's like transitioning. She's obviously still in mourning over the death of her husband, but she's transitioning to a new place, new surroundings, probably some security because she lost her husband. So she's a widow, and a widow in World War One era was not necessarily financially sound on her own. So she goes to her uncle's and he's throwing her a big party. And then she gets there and discovers that the house that he lives in is very haunted, and she can see the ghost of a soldier from the Confederate War, and she has a lot of kind of psychic things that happen to her. And she ends up partnering with a guy, does it say what his name is? Reginald Proctor, who says he's a medium, and they start to hold a seance to try to discover what has happened and how they can help this soldier to be at peace with whatever it is that's, upsetting him. So I really enjoyed this, and I don't know why I didn't get to the second one yet, but I didn't. So maybe they're set in the summer too. I'm not sure. I do know that this one sets up the entrance into the second one. I remember that because I was fascinated by it. So I may look at the second one while I am kind of in this nostalgic space of remembering how great this was. The House of Memory, which is the second in this series, which is called Pluto's Snitch. So I do have that one. And so we'll see. I might actually read that one. Okay, I have some arcs. One that was sent to me years ago, and one that was gifted to me by a friend who read it and knew that I liked this particular author. So let's start with the years ago one. Summer Wives by Beatrice Williams was sent to me when I think when I first started like sort of signing up for ARCs. So this came out in July of 2018. This is terrible that I've never gotten to this, but it's true. So this one follows Miranda Schuyler in 1951. In the summer, she arrives on Winthrop Island, and she's also reeling from the loss of her family member in World War II. Her dad passes away, and so she goes to stay with new family. Her mother has recently remarried another man, and she's has a stepsister, and she's now kind of thrust into this more elite kind of community of people because of her mom's marriage to this particular guy. And she's getting to know kind of the way that they spend their summers and the way that they live their lives and kind of what's expected of her, I guess, in this new family and community. So there's summer families and there are working class fishermen and domestic workers. And I suspect that she is kind of in the middle of both of those things, and something happens that I don't want to know too much about that really I think impacts her and perhaps the communities around her. But I would love to say, hey, I read this. It's way too late to give feedback on this, obviously, for them, but I did get an ARC of this. Actually, this was my very first physical ARC that I ever received. So it's kind of special to me. But did I read it yet? No, I did not. Another ARC is The Lake House by Kate Morton. Kate Morton is someone that I really admire. This is super thick, so I have kind of not picked it up, but I wouldn't mind doing that. The print is pretty decently sized, though, and the spacing is pretty, significant. So it's probably a faster read than I've given it kind of credit for. My friend Heidi gave me this. So as you know, Kate Morton often does dual timelines, so alternating between 1933 and present day Cornwall and London. This is a story of a famous crime writer named Alice, who has been haunted for a very long time about the disappearance of her brother, who was just 11 months old. And a detective reopens this unsolved case, and they begin to try to discover what happened to him. Kate Morton's always a blend of historical fiction and obviously a current timeline, and they're usually some sort of unearthing of something that happened in the past that was unsolved, which I like. So they're kind of similar plots often, but because this one is set in the summer, it seems like a good one for me to get to. I do also want to get to Homecoming, which is very robust. All of hers are very robust, but I think The Lake House would be a good one for me to take a look at this summer. This author, I have read another book written by her, but I have not read this one, and I've had it for a pretty long time. This is a reading group copy, and this book came out in 2008, maybe the oldest on my shelves. The Last Time I Was Me by Kathy Lamb. I have read the first day of the rest of my life and enjoyed it. And I have Julia's chocolates on my shelves as well and haven't gotten to it. So here's the intro of the synopsis that I really like. So I'm going to read it to you rather than tell you the plot. I wrapped up my grandmother's teacup collection and my mother's china, then grabbed a violin I'd hidden way back in my closet that made me cry, a gold necklace with a dolphin that my father gave me 2 weeks before he died of a heart attack when I was 12. And at midnight, with that moon as bright as the blazes, I left Chicago. That is not the first line, but I'm assuming that it is a line from the book. The first line, actually, which I was intrigued by as well, is women can look so innocent. That's the first line. And then she goes on to say, and a few of them might be innocent, I mean, most aren't. Most have secrets, pretty big ones, if I do say so myself. I know. So this is deckled edge, French flap, two of my favorite things. Again, it has a reader's guide. I have enjoyed this author before, and it doesn't say for certain that it's set in the summer, but it is, she does stop in sort of getting away from this series of things that have happened to her. She leaves with this plethora of things she describes in that intro, and she goes to on a road trip, I guess, and she ends up in Oregon at a pancake place, and she decides to stay there. So she ends up in Weltana, Oregon. She had a public breakdown in front of a number of people because she works in PR. She also discovered that her boyfriend was having multiple affairs. She retaliated in some way with what is described with condoms and peanut oil. So perhaps he's allergic to peanut oil. I don't know. But these are often they're witty, and they're also very strong. I would say the one that I read for sure, and this one sounds no different, very strong female characters who are also trying to overcome something that's happened in their lives. I learned about Kathy Lamb from my niece, and she read several of hers. There is a big body of work by Kathy Lamb. I have not collected it all, though. I just have these couple. And it says, sometimes it takes losing your way to find yourself. I would say that that is definitely her kind of theme, is someone who's kind of off center in some way and has had a series of maybe unfortunate events and then is trying to return and reclaim her own existence and power and identity. Another one I have, it is a book of the month, so that would get me through that backlist, is Other Birds by Sarah Addison Allen. I've had this for a couple of months now because this came out last year, I do remember, in September. So it came out on my birthday month. I have read a couple others by Sarah Addison Allen, and I really enjoyed them. Other Birds is a short read. I love this cover. And this one follows a woman whose name is Zoe, and she claims her mother passes away. There's a lot of death of parents in this stack, isn't there? Her mother passes away, and she goes to her apartment complex to go through her things and to figure out what to do with all of that. And the apartment complex is called the Delawisp, which is a bird, so it's named after the birds that are prevalent there. And she then is thrust into a mystery involving missing pages from a legendary writer whose work might be hidden there. There are some other authors there. And if you've never read Sarah Addison Allen before, she is very well known for her magical realism. Her books are light, but also typically surround some pretty dark themes of loss or grief in some way. Divorce was one of the ones that I read, I remember. And there always are some sort of secrets that need to be uncovered and some things that need to be released. This would be a nice, quick, short read. It looks really enchanting to me. And look at the font that was chosen. I don't want to spoil anything, but the font that was chosen in this one is quite interesting. The first line of this one, actually, I won't go back and do all of them, but the first line of this one is the empty wicker bird cage beside her began to rattle impatiently. Not bad. All about birds, right? Those are the ones that I own. There are a couple others I've been looking at online, but I think I'm going to do a separate video about those once I make a decision about which ones of those I might want to actually read. Summer goes all the way through August, and if you live where I live, it feels like summer all the way into late October. So I have no shortage of time in which to open these up. I would like to take some time off this summer. I don't know that we're going anywhere in the next couple of months, but I would like to take some time off, even if it's just a day here and there, maybe spend some time outside in the early morning before it gets beastly humid and hot, and have something cold to drink and read on my porch in a rocker. I think that sounds good. So I would love to know what your summer reading plans are. If you've read any of these books, I'd really be interested in hearing what you thought of them. Stay tuned for some wrap-up videos as I get to them. I may not get to all of them, but I definitely will get to the block party. And I feel like I will get to the lake house and then other birds. I think those are kind of my top priorities. And then maybe the Kathy Lamb and the Beatrice Williams. Okay, so let me know if you've read any of these or if you plan to read them. If you want to do a buddy read, that might inspire me to get onto something sooner rather than later. But thanks for watching today. Thanks for joining me. Like and subscribe if you haven't already. I would love to have you as a part of this community that we have created. It's a great group of people who are often commenting about books. So I think you'll like it here. And as always, happy reading. Bye.